Hello and welcome to this Getting Started video to help you get going with the Crosswalk API. By the end of this video, you'll know how to try out various endpoints and make calls into the API. You'll learn how to authorize or authenticate yourself to the API. And you'll learn a little bit about our REST versus our GraphQL endpoints and the options that provides you. So first things first, if you have not done so, sign in or sign up for the API. Once you're approved, you'll get an API key that will give you full access to all of the things we're going to be showing you today, as well as in the other videos. From here, I'm at the docs.crosswalk.digital site. This is the documentation site that explains how the API works and gives you a window into trying it out. So from the API's link, I can drill into the CSI Crosswalk API. You'll notice the V1 tag is on there. There may be different versions in the future, but for now there's version 1. On the left-hand side, you can see a number of examples and endpoints that you'll have access to. Let's start with one of the basic endpoints. It does not require any parameters or anything like that, and will return a list of the standards available in the Crosswalk API. You can see the endpoint here with the URL of api.crosswalk.digital/v1/api/standards. And we can even try it out. So if we look here to try out this particular endpoint, we do need to put in the subscription key. This is my test key. You'll receive yours after you sign up and get approved by CSI. By pasting that key in, it appends an authorization header, and this is the only thing that you need to authenticate to the API. This authorization header is your subscription key. Pass that in and you'll be able to make your own requests into the API. Now, once I've made that request, I get an HTTP response back. You can see the JSON body here, and there's an array of standards, and each of these standards has an ID, a name, a description, the version that it is, and so on. We'll get more into the data itself in further videos, but for now you can see the type of information you'll get back when you make an API call. The other nice thing about this browser interface is you can see, based on your language of choice, example code that you can copy and paste and get started in whatever language you're most familiar with. So the API through the browser is great. Next, I'd like to show you using Postman. This is sometimes much more convenient to use than going through the browser interface. And if you're not familiar with Postman, it's a free client app that you can download. It's very widely used, very stable, and it puts a nice interface on top of API testing. So here you can set up your own request from scratch, or you can download and then import the Crosswalk demo collection available from CSI. This comes pre-configured with a number of requests that you can use to try out and get started quickly. Let's look at the one thing that you will need to set up after importing this collection is an environment. An environment in Postman is just a collection of variables. We have a variable named URL base, which is pointing to this URL, api.crosswalk.digital. We have a variable named version, which is v1, and then we have subscription key, which is your subscription key. Those get applied in two places. The first one is if we look under the authorization tab, and remember, this is not something you need to configure. I just want to show you where the subscription key gets used. It sets up an HTTP header with the name of that variable in these brackets, and this will substitute this token with the actual subscription key variable that you configure. So that means all requests underneath this collection will inherit that authorization mechanism and will be authorized the same way. We can see that if we look into one of the requests and we look under the headers, we can see that an authorization with a subscription key token is automatically applied there. This standards request is the same example we saw from the browser. It looks at, or it points to api.crosswalk.digital/v1/api/standards. And when we make that request, we can see the response down below is the same response we received from the browser. It is a collection or an array of standards, and you can see the values that get returned here. So that is how you make a request from Postman. You can go through and explore all of these different requests and explore the data that gets returned. For each of the example requests under the REST folder, there is a corresponding request under the GraphQL folder. So if we look at the corresponding request for standards, we'll see something a little different. And GraphQL is really nice when you need more control and more flexibility on what you're pulling out of the API. It provides a nice query interface. So we'll point to the query endpoint, and the only difference between that and a REST request is we're going to do a post for GraphQL, and in the body, we're going to specify a query for what we want returned. So in this case, we're still requesting a list of standards, but we're asking the API to only send us the ID and the name. And when we make that request, you can see the structure of the JSON is exactly the same, which means the REST endpoints and the GraphQL endpoints are interchangeable in your application. But we're only getting back for each standard the data that we requested. So this provides a little more flexibility and a little more power than the basic REST interface. I hope this video was helpful. You now know how to try out the API through the browser and through Postman. You know how to authorize using your subscription key, and you see the basic difference between REST and GraphQL. Thank you.